Have you ever noticed how strange the feeling of deep calm is? For many people, when the pace of life finally slows down, in that quiet moment on the couch, in the silence of Sunday morning, or even during a vacation break instead of peace, a strange restlessness arises. It is an empty feeling that bothers you, a subtle anxiety that seems to call for something to fill the space. You catch yourself reaching for your phone, inventing a last-minute task, or even provoking an argument. It's as if, deep down, your body no longer knows how to relax, or, more intriguingly, doesn't want to relax. If you feel this paradoxical attraction to chaos, this genuine difficulty in embracing silence and rest, know that this is not a character flaw or a lack of discipline. It is the language of a body that has become, in a biological and unconscious way, addicted to stress. Your brain, in its incessant search for survival and predictability, has created a dependence on adrenaline and cortisol, the very hormones that once protected you, but which now hold you hostage to burnout and anxiety. We live in a culture that glorifies busyness, hurry, and being on alert. Chronic stress has become the status quo. And your body is an incredibly adaptive learning system. When you are bombarded by constant stressors, deadlines, traffic, news, screens, conflicts, your sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight mode, is repeatedly triggered. And with each trigger, your body receives a powerful dose of adrenaline and cortisol. And here is the key to the addiction. Adrenaline is an extremely potent neurotransmitter. It gives you an energy spike, momentary clarity, and a feeling of intense focus. It makes you feel alive, capable, and in control, even if chaos is setting in. For a brain that is tired, sluggish, and overwhelmed by the demands of modern life, adrenaline acts like a performance drug. It is the fastest way to feel productive, to have a sense of purpose, and to avoid the weight of exhaustion. If you spend months or years operating at this high level of adrenaline, your brain begins to associate this high-energy chemical state with your normal state. It stops recognizing the state of calm as safe or productive. It learns that to have focus, energy, and to be rewarded with the completion of a task, for example, it needs to be in crisis mode. What happens then, when stress becomes a form of addiction? First, you begin to have an increased tolerance to stress hormones. The same level of adrenaline that once gave you a boost is no longer enough. Your body needs increasingly larger and more frequent doses to achieve that state of functional alertness that you mistake for productivity. This leads you to seek out stress. You start procrastinating until the last minute, because the adrenaline spike of the impending crisis is the only time you can feel the necessary focus to act. You engage in unnecessary conflicts, because fighting fight or avoiding flight triggers your adrenal reward system. You voluntarily overload yourself, saying yes to tasks you cannot complete, just to maintain the feeling that a crisis is waiting for you. When the brain gets used to this chemical roller coaster, the state of calm begins to be perceived as a threat or a deficiency. If there is no stress, the brain thinks, where is the energy? Where is the focus? Something is wrong. I must be in danger. That is when rest anxiety arises. The restlessness that attacks you when you are not doing anything. Your body is literally experiencing withdrawal symptoms from adrenaline. The paradox is cruel. The same chemical system that is exhausting you, giving you insomnia, and inflaming your body excess cortisol, is the same one that gives you the deceptive feeling of power and purpose, adrenaline. If you notice this need to always be on the edge or the unconscious, search for chaos. Subscribe so we can continue to unravel these biological mechanisms and learn how to deprogram them. Science tells us that when stress is chronic, the communication between your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of the brain, and your amygdala, the fear and alert center, becomes dysregulated. Instead of the prefrontal cortex telling the amygdala, it's okay, it's just an email, the amygdala takes control. In the stress-addicted brain, the amygdala is constantly running high, demanding more crisis fuel to feel active. And, as adrenaline and cortisol flooded, the brain reinforces the neural pathway that associates crisis with reward, momentary dopamine relief. That's why stress-addicted people often have difficulty practicing mindfulness or meditation. Calm requires the brain to slow down, and this, initially, is perceived as boredom, vulnerability, or even pain. The brain does a violent pushback, shouting, "Speed up, find a problem. We need adrenaline." The mind begins to list old worries or invent new crises just to get that familiar and addictive stress hormone injection. This dependence is not just psychological, it is somatic, meaning it is rooted in the body. The chronic muscle tension you feel in your shoulders and neck, the tight stomach, the clenched jaw. All of this is your body accumulating the fight or flight energy that adrenaline promised, but which was never used to run or fight. The body stores this energy and gets used to keeping it as a state of readiness. Have you ever felt that strange emptiness, that need to fill the silence with noise or chaos, just to feel more present? Share it in the comments. Perhaps sharing this experience will help someone understand that they are not going crazy. The path to detoxifying the body from stress and breaking this adrenaline dependence is a slow but deeply liberating process, based on two main practices: safety signaling and discharging accumulated energy. The key is to reprogram your reward center so that it begins to associate calm with pleasure and safety. We need to teach the body that the rest and digest mode parasympathetic is not synonymous with danger, laziness, or boredom, but rather with repair, nourishment, and full life. The first step is the intentional micro-pause. Instead of waiting for the big stressor to feel the adrenaline, you must insert micro-moments of calm to activate the vagus nerve and the release of acetylcholine, the calm neurotransmitter. This can be done simply. Instead of jumping from one task to the next, pause for 60 seconds. Use this time to feel your slow breath and, crucially, to lengthen your exhale. The longer exhale activates the parasympathetic brake and slows the heart rate. When your body feels the heart rate slow down, it releases a cascade of chemicals that are the opposite of adrenaline, and this nourishes the neural pathways of calm. The second step is the discharge of fight-or-flight energy. Stress addiction is survival energy trapped in the body. You need gentle movement to release it, but in a way that does not generate more stress. Think of controlled somatic tremors or gentle rhythmic stretching. A wild animal's body, after escaping a predator, trembles intensely to release excess adrenaline. You can mimic this with small trembling movements in your arms and legs, or with a gentle rocking of your body. This simple action is a biological signal of completion. The crisis is over. The energy to run can be released now. Another powerful way to signal safety and break adrenaline dependence is grounding. In moments of restlessness, instead of reaching for a screen, more stimulation. Look for firm, safe, sensory contact. Feel the weight of your feet on the ground, the warmth of your hands together, the splash of cold water on your face. This orientation to the present breaks the stress cycle, as the addictive crisis only exists in the anticipation of the future or the rumination of the past. The present, when sensually perceived, is almost always safe. Adrenaline detoxification requires patience and self-compassion. There will be moments when your brain, accustomed to the chemical rush, will tempt you back into chaos. You may feel bored, unproductive, or even guilty for resting. In those moments, remember the truth. Rest is not inactivity. It is the most important work you can do for your health, longevity, and mental clarity. You are not being lazy. You are actively reprogramming your biology. The ultimate goal is not to live in a constant state of boredom, but to achieve a state of regulated calm, which is the opposite of stress addiction. In regulated calm, you have clear, sustainable energy, focus without the need for crisis, and the ability to experience genuine joy that does not depend on a chemical spike. You are trading a false sense of control and momentary power for lasting sovereignty over your own internal state. It is the exchange of the fleeting and destructive adrenaline rush for the sweet and nourishing dopamine of calm achievement and safe connection. You have the innate capacity to return to balance. Your body is eager to trust the brake again. Every long breath and every moment of intentional silence are powerful steps to break this addiction and reclaim your peace. I will be here to remind you that calm is your true superpower. Trust the process and be gentle with yourself.